Hey, what's up everybody? Jason here. Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to show you how you can do simple bulk editing in Bubble. So for this tutorial, I'm going to use the same application that I've been using for all of my tutorials, which is a simple artist and song management tool. So I've got a list of artists here, and I want to create a bulk edit so I can attach all a similar genre to all of the different artists. So what I'm going to do is be able to click this edit button here, and then that will allow me to select whatever artists I want, and then I'll be able to classify them with the same genre. There's a whole bunch of ways you can do this with different UI. I'm just going to show a really simple one so you can get the concept of how to use custom states to be able to accomplish this pretty easily. So first thing that you're going to need to do is add some way of adding all of the things in the repeating group to a temporary state. So for this, I've got the page highlighted here, and I'm going to click on this custom state thingy here, and I've already added these in. So bulk edit is going to be yes or no, default value is going to be no. I'm going to use that parameter basically to modify the display. So if I'm bulk editing something, then the display options for doing that editing will show up, and then I'm going to temporarily store the list of all of the artists in a custom state. So I want to make sure that list is checked here, and I'm using my artist object here. So now I need a way to be able to select all of the artists, and to do that I'm going to use a checkbox. I'm not going to have any text in it, and I'm going to set this to be very small so it just sits nice right beside the artist name. Now I could just have the label as being the artist name, but since I already have a text field with that, and that does a pop-up where you can view the artist information, that's why I'm just letting this checkbox sit here on its own. So I want this to be collapsed, and I do not want it visible on load, but a condition, I want to set a condition. So when the repeating group bulk edit is active, and this is just a little tip, you don't have to have is yes, it just knows that when this condition is true, then I want this element to be visible. And now to set that, I want this edit button here to turn that option on. So I'm going to highlight that icon, click on add workflow, and then I'm going to set the custom state of the page repeating group. The custom state I want to set is bulk edit, and I want to set that to yes. So if I go back into the app and reload this, when I hit this edit button, I should get a checkbox beside all of them. So perfect. So what I want to be able to do is to check all of these and then have something in the interface that allows me to classify all of those with the same genre. So let's go back here, and I'm going to do this in a very simple way. I'm going to do this by using a button. So I'm going to add this button here, and I'm going to call this categorize. And what I want this button to do is to open up a group where I can choose the genre. So I'm going to say group bulk edit. And my genre is in a thing. So I want to grab those from Bubble. So I'm going to grab genres, and I want to do a search for genres, and just to make it easy, I'm going to sort them by name, and it's going to display that options name. So now this particular group, I want this to be hidden, so I'm going to select collapse when hidden. I do not want it on page load, and when the categorize button is clicked, then I want to use toggle an element. I want to toggle that bulk edit. Now I don't want this categorize button to show every time. So for this, I'm going to set it to collapse. I don't want it visible on load, but I want it visible once I have decided that I want to do some bulk editing. So when bulk editing is yes, then I want this element to be visible. So I'll go back to the page and reload, go to artists. So I click this, and now the categorize button shows up. And when I click categorize, now I've got the option here to choose the genre. So now what I need to do is to store these artists in a list in that custom state so I can decide which ones that I actually want to bulk edit. So the good thing with Bubble is when you are using repeating groups, it's smart enough to know which row element that you're in. So with this checkbox, all I need to do is to create a workflow for this. So I'm going to set a state, and I want that to be on the page, the temp artist list. And what I want to do is I want to add whatever item I'm clicking on to whatever is in that existing list right now. So the value, I'm going to set this to the actual custom state, and then I want to add an item. So plus item, current cells artist. So that will add to it. And another good thing with Bubble, when you're working with lists, you can't add the same thing to the same list multiple times. It knows if it's already there, it won't add it again. And also, if you delete a record in a database, it actually removes the reference from the lists as well. But this should allow me to add multiple artists into that dropdown. And a good practice that I usually use for testing is I will just simply put a text element on the page, and I will set that text element to be the list. And what I can do is use this format as text, so I can show this list without having to put another repeating group on there. I just want to show the artist name, and I want to separate that with a comma. So this way I can validate as I'm adding to the list, they're actually showing up in there. So let's go back to the page and refresh this. Click on artists, click on bulk edit, click categorize. And a good tip is don't use white text on a light background. So let's change that text color to a darker color and refresh this. There. So now I can see the list is being populated. Okay, so I can add a button here to invoke the action, but what I'm going to do is just do it when the actual dropdown changes. So when the value is changed, I want to make changes to a list of things because I'm going to be changing all of the artists that are in that custom state. So I want to select my page name and then the custom state, which is storing all of my artists. And the thing that I want to change is the genre, and I want to add whatever this dropdown's value is. So now if I go back here and reload the page, click on artists, click on edit, categorize. Oops, don't want to click in the name, click on the checkbox. Notice that there's no genres displayed beside these three. If I pick this, there. So now it's bulk edited. So that's a very simple way to do bulk editing. I'm going to clean this up a little bit. So if that's all you needed to know, thanks a lot for watching. Hit subscribe, but let's clean this up a little bit for those that want to stick around for a little bit. So the user experience is, let's just say, horrible. For this, what I could do instead was click on this categorize, and I could just have this show up, get rid of this condition. So I want categorize to be displayed, and I don't want this edit button here anymore. So what I want to have happen is when I click categorize, I want to toggle the bulk edit, and I also need to set the state of an element for the page to turn bulk editing on to yes. So when I click that categorize button, it's going to open that up and it's going to set the bulk editing to yes, which is going to display the checkboxes there. So if I click on artists, I click categorize. Now I can go ahead and do the same thing. Now this is the piece of text where I'm storing the artist names in that custom state, and I want that to not be visible on page load, and I want it to be visible only when repeating groups temp artist count is greater than 0. So make that visible and get rid of a little bit of extra there. And another thing that you could do is you could disable this dropdown. So I could say when the repeating group temp artist count is 0, this input is disabled. So it won't do anything when you pick that drop down. So I could also update the text. So I could also say that the placeholder is select artist first. So if I go back here and reload the page, go to artists, click categorize. So now I can't click on this yet until I pick an artist. So now once I pick the artist, now they show up in the list and now I can choose the genre. So just for fun, let's change this again. You can see it is not actually attaching the same one again because it knows that it's already in there. Okay, so now that I'm confident that it is actually selecting artists and putting them in that list, let's get rid of this. I'm going to change this to a row group. Make sure there is some padding between it, and I'm going to add a little cancel button. So if I decided that I didn't want to go ahead with this action, cancel. And what I want this to do is I want this to clear the states. So I want to clear the temp artist list, and I want to set bulk edit back to no, and then I want to hide the bulk edit group to put the page back to the normal state. So let's reload this again. Artist, categorize, let's say I started selecting some genres and I went, you know what, I don't want to do this. Hit cancel, puts the page back to the normal state. So there's a whole bunch of options you can do for customizing your UI for this. Remember to hit like and subscribe. These tutorials come out every Sunday, Wednesday, and Friday. See you next time.